Rav Yaakov Galinsky, who was in the Third Reich during the time of Yamach Shemo, Adolf Hitler, reports how he would go ahead and scream about the 1,000-year Reich that will last forever. People were dizzied by his words. They were enticed. As we know, they were enthralled by every other word that he said, and he was extremely convincing and cogent in everything that he did and said. Italy was meant to have all of Africa. Germany was supposed to take over all of Europe, and the Japanese were supposed to take over the rest of the eastern side of the world. Only three powers that would be in charge of everything. Poland, Hungary, France, Romania, everything was driven over by Blitzkrieg and was able to be completely annihilated and destroyed by Yamach Shemo, Adolf Hitler. He was able to take him out. Anyone, he said at that time, that would ever dare to tell him that his Reich would not last, that his reign would be terminated, and it would be anything less than 1,000 years, would be or put to death or just laughed at, Pashut. This is going to last that long. And we all know that it didn't last 100, it didn't last 20, it barely lasted 6 years, the whole entire reign. And it cost 54 million people's death before it was turned over. What did survive afterwards after the war was communism. Communism stayed around with Stalin communism, the one that was known as what we call the Ma'apecha, who made a big turnover, the revolution, that went ahead and spread into many places into the world, and was believed that this would be the future, the iron fist that was able to go ahead and anybody who would rebel against it would lose their life. The whole entire future of Russia was obviously meant to be communistic. And he himself, Rav Yaakov, reports that he spoke to the Chafetz Chaim and heard that he said that the communist regime will not last more than 50 years. Almost a laughable comment to say it wouldn't last 50 years. Its power, its dominance, that Russia takes over is almost a sixth of the landmass of the whole entire world, and they were very powerful. And to say that it would collapse would be unbelievable. And here we are, and here we were 50 years later in the middle of the 80s, from the time of the statements of the Chafetz Chaim, and everything died down. One more place that we moved on to after that, of course, is Eretz Israel, what's known as Zionism, a tremendous euphoria. As he reports there, he remembers when they proclaimed Yom HaAtzmaut in 1948, they were singing Shir HaMalot B'Shuv Hashem et Shiva Tzion. That they were singing a Shir HaMalot B'Shiva Tzion. Back then, even the non-religious had a religious content to them, and they were singing it to the tune of Hatikva, the national anthem. Shir HaMalot B'Shuv Hashem et Shiva Tzion. And at that time, they kind of drove out the Arabs, but not really, and unfortunately they didn't finish the job. They had weapons, they felt very powerful, and we are here to take the world over. Baruch Hashem, we have solved anti-Semitism for all time. We have our own country. It will not be had anymore. Things have already been replaced. This is our place, and now no more will people be against us. And there we have it. The Klosenberger Rebbe actually went to Levi Eshkol, the prime minister of the time. Believe it or not, there was a prime minister before Bibi Netanyahu once upon a time. And he went to Levi Eshkol and he told him, you should know this country is actually in more danger than the Warsaw Ghetto. This place is a tremendous amount of danger about what can happen over here. And he shrugged his shoulders and said, whatever you want to say. And here we are, many years later, seeing how much dangers lurk around here. The threats have not died down in any shape or form. And apparently the Klosenberger Rebbe's prediction was correct. But again, if you would speak to an Israeli back then at the time and say this is no solution for anti-Semitism, we're still in danger, etc., they wouldn't believe a word of it. And here we are, like I said, and apparently that statement is correct. Any time a country, a place, a Medina is built with some type of ism, some type of belief, it's an abstract concept, an idea, it's an opinion, it's some type of idea and concept that came up by the human person, it's something that is not meant to last and can't last. It can't be there forever. In order for something to last, it has to be something, if I could say, or divine, or something embedded in stone. It has to be something that lasts. In scientific understanding, for something to last from generation to generation, it has to have some type of attribute, some type of characteristic, some type of gene that gets transferred from the one generation to the next. It has to have some common denominator between one thing and the next, between one premises in the next, in order that it could be transferred onwards and onwards. And so too with a people. Every time a country gets defeated, they get swallowed up by the country that they are in, because they push it intermingle. They just become intermixed with the rest of the people. They just become like everybody else. And here we are, the Jews, after so many years, after 2,000 years of galut, and we're still here. What is that common gene? What is that that's around? It can't be the food, because yes, bagels and lox and falafel might be something Jewish about it, but you go to the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim, and you're in totally different food brackets. No one understands what the other one's eating. The culture's completely different. The way they are dressed, completely like look at me, I'm dressed with a suit and tie, just like the country that you're surrounded by. Here I am speaking English, just like the country I was raised in. We never found ourselves different from anyone else. If I could say, our skin color is very similar to everyone else. Sephardim also aren't that off. Similar to everyone else that are in the same bracket. And you see an Oriental person, you can see they stand out, but Jews just know how to mix in with the rest of the Goyim very nicely, in dress, in speech, in look, and in type of attitude. Well, making money, I don't have to speak about that one. The Jews are the ones on top of the world, making a tremendous amount, like it says in the protocols of the elders of Zion, taking over the world. Al Kopanim, you go on, and you see that there is absolutely no reason why we should be here. We should have been completely mingled, mixed, and just subdued by the rest of the governments that we are surrounded by. What is our common? We didn't have a military, we didn't have a country, we didn't have anything. And here we are still here to speak about it. What is that common phenomenon? So we already saw in last week's Parshat Ki Tavo, that it says when we were going into the banks of the Yarden, before the banks of the river of the Jordan, the sea splits, we walked into it, and incredibly, you would think that we would try to run as quickly as possible to the other side before it would be completely collapsed on the water. But instead, we stopped there and drew 12 stones, 70 languages, the whole entire Torah that was written on it. According to the Ramban, it was the whole Torah. According to the Ketav Kabbalah, it was the Sefer of Dvarim. Other Shittot is that was the Taryag Mitzvot, the 613 Mitzvot. But we wrote on these stones, the whole entire Torah was written on top of it. What are we doing on the banks of the river? Some tourist attraction that we wanted to be able to have some stones that we can find? These days, if you go ahead and pay the Torah guide enough money, he'll show you where those stones are on the other side of the Jordan River. What was the purpose of them? Anyways, the water came crashing down. The answer is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to make sure before we step into Eretz Yisrael that we don't run to find the first falafel stand, look where the bakery is, and to make sure who sells the best shawarma and how to paint our houses in the best way. He wanted to make sure that you start this country with Torah. The Even Achat, the Torah is the one that kept us alive. The gene, the common gene that kept us going, that kept us from becoming extinct from generation to generation, was predecessed by the common idea that we know as the Torah. The Torah was with us, it never left. As the Meshech Chochmah writes, on the pasuk of Lo Yasir Habadim, the Aron HaKodesh had on its staves. Those staves were never removed, which seems a little bit inappropriate. You don't leave the wheels on of the dolly when you're carrying your washing machine to the place you want to do it. You get rid of it. Whenever you carry something to a place, you use the wheels and then you get rid of it. Why are you leaving the staves inside of the Aron Kodesh, the tabernacle which contained inside of it the Torah? The answer is because the Torah is required to be moved from place to place. It was always in our living room. It was always in our Beit Midrash. Any city we went, we took the Torah with us, and that kept us connected in all circles of the planet. Just like when people go to a different place and Daf Yomi is all on the same page and I can go ahead and pick up a shir wherever I'm located, so too the Torah is what kept us alive with or without a country. That is how we were able to survive. This is the miracle of Klal Yisrael. And like I said, we've seen many countries, many empires, many regimes that have built themselves up and have completely disappeared. They have gone to nowhere, and we are left only with the beauty and the incredible cessation that we have, and this is experienced in our Parsha. When it says in Parshas Nitzavim, V'yoymu kol hagoyim, al ma'as Hashem kachal haaretz hazot, why was it destroyed? Al asher azvu et brit Hashem Elokei avotam. It's all a matter of brit Elokei avotam. Are we going into Eretz Yisrael? Are we building ourselves on the brit Hashem Elokei avotam? That's what's keeping us? Or is it other factors? Because when it's other factors, it doesn't last. I'll end with the words of Rav Yaakov Emden in his Siddur Beit Yaakov, who says an incredible thing when he's speaking about the tzarot, the thousands of years of the difficulties that we went through Jewish history. He says these words, Chai Nafshi, he makes a promise. Ki b'idboneni b'niflot ha'ele, when I look at these incredible wonders, how could it be that we are still here, b'nisim b'niflot? They're much bigger than all the wonders and all the miracles that we knew of splitting seas, of Mitzrayim, of the Midbar, of being in the desert, of Eretz Yisrael. And as long, he says, Kol Sharich HaGolet Yoter, as long as the Golet gets longer and longer, then the Nes becomes that much larger and larger, that much greater and greater. V'noda Maisa Tekabel Gvurato V'lo Nafal Mikol Divrei Anavim Arza. Every little thing keeps us here, because the Torah is something that is lasting, it's consistent, it's divine, it's something that doesn't change. When you are part of a government that is dependent on opinion, that is dependent on something that is man-made, that it's something that just can't last, because men are temporary. The divine is infinite. We are here and we are here forever. We have no end to our here, because our source, our shorashim, our roots are divine, and those roots are connected through the Torah. Baruch Hashem, that connection is what's keeping us alive, that is what kept us alive, and that is the miracle that we have experienced over these past 2,000 years. Shalom.